Hello, and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm not entirely sure who to call.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss Ghostbusters, which came out in 1984, written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, and directed by Ivan Reitman. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows three scientists who have come up with the business prospect of capturing ghosts. As they start to develop the technology to help them capture these spirits, more and more of them start to appear in the city of New York, and we realize that something big is making its way here.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Enough, I get the point.
So this really all started with Dan Aykroyd, and well, I guess his family. His grandfather was a medium, a psychic, an entrepreneur, one of those like scientists that really wanted to get, into the afterlife, mysticism, spirits, the beyond.
Yeah.
And so Dan Aykroyd was kind of brought up in that environment. But at the same time, he was also a comedian working with, Saturday Night Live and doing various things.
Yeah.
And so he was like, well, how about I combine my history with what I love doing? And he wrote Ghostbusters. And of course, when they looked at it, they were like, this cannot be done at this time with any kind of budget. You need like $300 million. It was set in like the year 2050, where there was Ghostbusters all over the world dealing with ghosts, and it was just like a day job. It was like being a janitor, cleaning up ghosts. That was the idea for the original thing. But when they kept looking at it, they're like, this is unfeasible, it's undoable.
Yeah.
And so that they went to Martha's Vineyard and literally just hacked away at the script over a couple of weeks to give us the script that we then have. And of course then, went into production. They had $30 million and just under a year to make the entire film. And they literally got this film finished right at the deadline. The special effects were still being done as the film was being printed, for final release in cinemas. That was how close they came. And of course this film has like a massive, massive legacy. But it is fascinating going in and seeing all of the things that could have been. Like John Candy was almost cast at one point.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy was almost cast as one point.
I think John Belushi as well.
John Belushi was, but unfortunately he did pass away because he was long-time collaborator with Dan Aykroyd after the Blues Brothers and everything else that they had worked on together. So he kind of gets celebrated in this, and they said like Slimer eating the food is like him from Animal House.
Yes.
So they tried to copy his brow, his expressions.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing about when they went to make this film, is that nothing on this scale had ever been done before.
No.
With a comedy. For a comedy movie to be such an expensive special effects movie, it'd never been done before. And so you can understand why some people were just like, what is this? No. But those that were making it, they knew they had something special on the very first day of filming. When they saw their cast in the Ghostbusters uniform, they knew they had something special from the get-go.
I mean, what is there to say about Ghostbusters that I don't think people have already said before? Like, I grew up in the era of Ghostbusters. I was born, and then 2 years later the film came out. So by the time I was kind of old enough to understand what Ghostbusters was, everybody was celebrating it around me. There was, can't remember when, but there was the animated TV show that just appeared. We had the toys, we had the outfits. We were already getting ready for the sequel, which I think came out in 92. So like as a kid, it was just there. Ghostbusters. And yet, weirdly enough, as I got older, I realized I shouldn't have been watching that film.
Ghostbusters was intended for adults, but it had the same impact. I don't know, it's like RoboCop and Terminator,
Yeah,
like they just had a mass appeal for kids and all had kids' toys.
Well, that's it. But it's also the parents at the time. They were happy to put their kids in front of TV shows, and so when you're a kid, and all of a sudden you've got these scientists, three scientists and Winston Zeddemore, running around capturing ghosts with these great technology. It's all about fun, and that's where obviously the companies must have got along with it and went, hey, we need to market this to kids. We're gonna sell it through the children, all the toys, and everybody did it back in the 80s. It's fine.
Well, it's the fact that Ghostbusters is a franchise within its own movie, and like they have their own T-shirts, they have their own logo, so you could easily see the merchandising, franchising rights, but to sell themselves.
It's just amazing that would ever happen, because like Gary said, if you look into the history of this movie, a lot of things could have easily just changed the outcome.
Oh yeah.
If Belushi had worked with Aykroyd, immediately off the offset, like the film wouldn't be about 4 guys, it would be just about 2. If they hadn't signed the right person to do the special effects, we could have terrible effects. Like I was watching them in the film, and I'm like, this is just coming off the back of Poltergeist.
Sure.
You look at the spiritual stuff they did in Poltergeist, and somebody said, look, we're just going to apply that same thing to Ghostbusters, but we're going to just try to do it on a larger scale. And the film starts off so brilliantly. I'm going to try to avoid of just gushing over everything in this movie.
You can try.
I can try. There's probably somebody out there in the back somewhere going, oh, Ghostbusters is terrible, I don't like it. And that's fine. You can not like Ghostbusters if that's up to you, but I'm telling you right now, I love this fucking movie.
Listen. You smell something?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this film was life to child me. This was one of, if not my favourite film for the longest time.
Yes.
Absolutely adore this film and its sequel. And, of course, the real Ghostbusters cartoon series. Played the video games. Collected the comic books. Everything Ghostbusters. The toys, the works.
Yeah.
And I've always been incredibly engrossed in this film. And the moment this film starts, with the New York Public Library,
yes,
the lion statues outside, the music inviting you in, it's kind of supernatural, but also very whimsical at the same time.
The music I found with this movie, like, that's what I'm talking about. They had everything just aligned. That orchestral kind of evil, foreboding noise.
Absolutely, it's Elmer Bernstein,
right,
or Bernstein, who did the music for this film, and it has to be said that it is one of cinema's greatest soundtracks. Like, this soundtrack ties the whole film together so perfectly well. It really captures the playfulness, the silliness, and also the seriousness and the bombastic orchestra and the brass when it comes in. It is a phenomenal soundtrack.
Well, it's like when you mix it with the camera work as well. This opening sequence with this librarian, she's walking around. You take a library, which is a very quiet location anyway, so you've got no talking. You've got no real interaction from this person. She gets her stuff. She heads down into the basement, which, you don't realize at first, but is quite a scary area to be in. It's like
a maze.
Yeah, you don't know what's behind the corner. Mixing the music with the camera work, it's like something is watching you. Like you are the ghost watching this person. And I love just watching the drawers come out and the cards start flicking up, and the book's moving behind her, is that other ghost or is that the same one? I don't know. The questions immediately come right from the start for me, because when she makes her way around that corner...
And we don't see anything. We just see this white light as the camera goes into her face, and she starts screaming as the logo appears on the screen, and you're just like, oh, I'm in!
Ray Parker Jr.'s theme tune,
he had like 2 to 3 days to create that song. He was just like, we'll pay you if you can deliver this song in 3 days. He was like, I'm on it.
Oh, he delivered. He delivered for the rest of his life. And that's what I mean. That music then cements. You're sat there like, this has got to be a comedy.
Well,
right?
A small bit of trivia about the song.
Yeah.
Was that he was actually sued for plagiarism.
Okay.
Because he borrowed or riffed another song. And so he settled out of court. But the thing is, like, after that settlement, he ended up suing the person that sued him, and that was settled out of court. It's like, what's going on with this song? Who wrote it?
Somebody wrote it, but I think it came from just the success of the movie as well. Because everybody was singing it. All the kids wanted.
It was that year's #1.
Yeah. But this is where you start to notice as well, like certain things that I don't know if children should have been open to at that age. Like Peter Venkman is doing a test with 2 students. He's trying to test the positive effects of mental telepathy.
Yeah.
And he's using electric shock therapy to torture this boy?
It's based off an experiment where they got people to give electric shocks to other people.
Yeah.
And the test was how willing that person was on giving the electric shocks to another person because somebody told them to do it.
Right.
So this is just kind of a play on that. And of course, it's also our first introduction to one of our Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And he doesn't paint a good picture of himself in the scene where he's deliberately electrocuting this dude and deliberately letting the girl off so he can flirt with her.
Is he sleeping with students?
Well, he's definitely... Well,
I think he is, because somebody's written Burn in Hell Venkman in lipstick on his door. And I only thought about this when I was trying to review it, was... Like, it's a big joke back in the 80s that, teachers were sleeping with their students. So, is Venkman sleeping with students?
Yeah, it's something I don't really think about too much, because I like Peter. But
I do as well, but I think that's more for his character. Peter is the selfish, smart one, but he's not as smart as, say, Ray Stantz, who comes running in now, being played by Dan Aykroyd. And obviously, this really works. The 3 of these characters really work, along with Harold Ramis, because of their time in Saturday Night Live, I believe.
Well, they'd also, Harold Ramis and Bill Murray worked together on Stripes.
On Stripes, yeah. So they all had this kind of, off-screen relationship.
Well, they kind of decided, like, as a group, like, what the group dynamic was going to be. And, like, the moment when Dan Aykroyd comes in, when Ray Stantz comes in, he's just booming with positive energy.
Yes,
It's like, you're the heart of the group.
Yeah.
And then we've got Harold Ramis. Like, you're the smart one. You're the one who doesn't smile. You're the brain of the group.
Yeah.
Right. Who's the mouthpiece? It's you, Bill Murray. It's you.
And Bill Murray just fits it so well.
Yes.
The whole interaction with the students has set them up that whatever they're doing is failing, and so that this new idea where they head to the library to study this ghost is we know is the crux of the movie. Venkman's got that gift of the gab. He's already talking to the librarian like, back off, man. I'm a scientist.
What has that got to do with it?
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
So there's another thing, like, in the original script, it was fuck off, man. But it was like, they kept toning it down just a little bit, just to make it so it was a little bit more child-friendly.
Yeah, to ease us in, but also keep the adults in as well.
Yes.
The adults would watch it with their children and then be like, yeah, this is all fine. When they head down into the basement, I love the whole build-up of everything spiritual. When you've got the books all stacked like that, you've got the slime, the ectoplasm. The first time I saw ectoplasm, oh my God, blew my mind.
It's like ghosts leave goo everywhere.
They do, yeah, and a lot of this, like you said, must be really real. I haven't really properly delved into the spiritual side of things because there's so much into it. But at that point, Dan Aykroyd must have been saying, like, look, this is what people believe.
Yeah.
So this is what we need in the film to get people to believe.
He brought in the real world science into a fantasy movie. And because of the real world science and because of the tools that they're using look believable.
Yeah.
They look practical. You believe the world that these characters inhabit almost immediately. Because it does feel similar to ours. And what is exciting for like young me watching it was just like, this is a job, like people can go and be this. I want to go and hunt ghosts. And it's like, well, you can see the legacy that this film has had on ghost catchers across the planet.
Well, I think ghosts hide nowadays because of Ghostbusters.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, is there any ghosts left? Did we catch them all?
We caught them all.
I mean, I keep watching these ghost shows and there's no fucking ghosts on them.
Man, the special effects of this first ghost, though, just really paves the way of what we're going to get through the rest of the movie, because They turn that corner. I got to bring up Dan Aykroyd's lines. Some of the line work in this movie is just top notch. And you may not catch him at first, but that moment where he goes, listen, Do you smell that?
Right.
It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Just get that.
Another great thing about this was that because the three of them knew that it was kind of an ensemble thing,
Yeah.
they knew Bill Murray was the lead because he had starred. He was the star of other films. So, like, he's going to be our front man. But at the same time, we're all comedians, and they all shared the jokes. So if they thought one character was getting too many jokes, they were like, how about that character says it? And they were all worked together to decide who would be the best character to deliver the best jokes.
Yeah.
And so it really does feel like no one like gets the limelight the whole time.
Well, this whole opening with the first ghost where they're not sure what to do. You know, Peter walks out there and has a little bit of a chat with her, but she just kind of shushes him off. And then, like you said, with the three of them there, you know, Ray doesn't know what to do. Egon's not sure what to do. They're in an unprecedented situation at this moment. And then when the three of them creep out and the music's building and you're sat there and you're like, what are they going to do? They're just going to grab her?
Well, that's the
plan. Your
plan.
arms go through them? Like, that's what you do. And then as soon as she erupts into whatever that thing is and they escape, oh my God, it's just absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, I just love watching their reactions as they panically run down the corridor. Just seeing how each one of them reacts to it. But yeah, it was an awesome effect. It's actually on screen for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But it was an awesome transformation. I know that behind the scenes, the puppeteers, they had so many ideas and designs and sculptures and different ways that it transforms. And it's just like blink and you miss it. Yes. And it's a good scare right at the beginning of the film to kind of set the tone. Even though when the Ghostbusters come running out, they're kind of laughing. They're just like, what was that?
Well, we say they set the tone. I mean, I'm thinking about it. The film plays with it really well. Let's hit the serious note, bring it back down. Let's hit the childish note, let's bring it back up. We're just going to run this line that these three guys... And I think that's what makes this movie, maybe even this whole franchise, really work, is that it bases itself in what we consider to be the real world. And we would love these fantastical things to happen. But the film has to break the laws. You know, once they've realised that they've come to some ideas with Egon, because Egon Spengler, you know, Harold Ramis' character, he's not just only smart, he's an absolute freaking genius. And the technology he comes up with to search for, find, and capture and entrap spirits, you know, they've got that whole idea of the PKE meter. I mean, once you made toys of these things, my mind was just absolutely blown. So the PKE meter, you know, it senses the ghosts in the air.
Yeah.
You know, and so now they're going to need a backpack of some kind to be able to fire a proton blast around the ghost to encapture it. And then they're going to need a trap. Now, the traps... I don't even... Little me, 10-year-old me, mind was blown about how ghosts could enter in, like Doctor Who. You know, the thing is a lot bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. But having that on top of the adult stuff of them going to the bank and having to get 3 mortgages on Ray Stan's house to be able to try to get the money and then be able to buy the firehouse and then be able to purchase the car... When they released the game on the Amstrad, I was really looking forward to capturing ghosts. When they actually told me I had to develop my bank fund to be able to purchase all the equipment so I could drive the Ecto 1 and don't forget to buy fuel for the car so then I could go capture the ghosts, blown. Mind blown.
Starting a business is hard.
Blown.
But that's what this film is really about. It's about a startup business, you know? It's about people coming together and entrepreneurs, we're going to do this, you know? And it's a messy job, but we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's a cool montage watching them get into that firehouse. You know, Egon's like, this place should be condemned. But Ray's just like, check out this pole. Have you seen it? When can we move in?
Wow, this place is great. When can we move in? You gotta try this pole.
Sigourney Weaver. What is there to say that we haven't already said? Like, maybe I could say it again. She's just... Dana Barrett, like, she was a childhood crush for me.
Sigourney Weaver really, really wanted this part. And in the script, it wasn't really a substantial part.
Right.
Like... It's a character, but it doesn't have much character development or progression or characteristics. But she was just like, look, it's a comedy film. I've seen who's in the film. I'm a comedian. All I've done is serious movies.
Yeah.
Let me do this comedy. Even though she doesn't... she doesn't necessarily have the comedic lines. She's with the comedians, and she grounds it even more into another reality where she's believable with them, and she brings them down because she carries herself so strongly on screen.
Oh, totally. I mean, her back and forth with Peter Venkman's character,
Yes.
like we said, it's been established at the start of the movie that he's a bit of a ladies' man. Maybe not a good ladies' man, but he attempts to be. And then when he goes after Sigourney Weaver's character, and she is repelling him, but she can't keep him away at all times because she kind of needs him because there's a monster in her fridge. And like, it's such a simple sequence, but it's really just cements the whole movie for a lot of fans, is that egg sequence.
Yeah.
You know, watching the eggs burst out on the side. You know, we've all watched Exorcist, and, you know, we've seen a lot of these ghost movies. Strange things happen, you know, with things. And when the eggs are cooking, she opens up the fridge and you see that monster go, Zool. You're like, what the fuck is that? You know, oh my God.
I mean, looking at it when you, like, freeze the image, you're just like,
yeah,
it's a bit of a psychedelic mess on screen, but yeah, it works.
But it's meant to be, you know, to show you something otherworldly. You know, we've already got the city of New York that looks scary and hellish. How can we, you know, go from that? And when she's interacting with Peter, I not only love her interactions with Peter because, like I said, it brings Peter down a couple of notches. Also makes him, I don't know, maybe want to work harder to get the business up and running with Ray and Egon, so that they can
in film universe, yes, but also in real life, like Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd both said that having Sigourney Weaver there, it made Bill Murray go, oh shit, like there's a professional actor here. I need to up my game. Oh, yeah. And they were just like, he never could please Sigourney Weaver in terms of his acting prowess.
Yeah.
They all said that she run rings around him, and he was doing his best to try and please her as an actor. And so, but it works for the characters so much so that you like the chemistry between the two of them, even though you still like, he is a shady, womanizing piece of shit.
Yeah,
but you find out that he does have a heart. You know.
Yeah.
He might be cynical and rough, but he is a good person at the end of the day.
I also love how they bring in Louis Tully as well. Rick Moranis' character. He's the annoying, you know, love-struck neighbor who is always just coming out at the right time to speak to Sigourney Weaver, even though she's sneaking past.
There's a point where she's tiptoeing almost past, but he knows.
He knows. He's watching for her, and it corresponds as well. You've got Annie Potts playing Janine Melnitz, you know, the receptionist for the Ghostbusters. Her character was firmly established in this movie, and then was just kept around even more in all of the cartoons and comics and books, that she just felt like a fifth Ghostbuster.
She's essential. And, I mean, she's a southern girl, but she's putting on that New York accent.
Ghostbusters, what do you want?
Exactly. She's perfect for the role. It really, really is. And again, she's another one that can stand toe-to-toe with them, because she's not taking any of their bullshit.
Quit better jobs than this. Ghostbusters, what do you want?
I've been watching this film like a lot. You know, there's a sequence that blew my mind. There's a moment where she sat at her desk, and Bill Murray's just done that, you know, whole bug-eye sentence with her, and it seems harsh, and then he completely apologizes straight after for it. And Egon climbs out from underneath the desk. And, like, there's this whole relationship build-up between Janine and Egon. It would play on for most of the franchise.
Well, to be fair, it was, like, there was definitely a hint of a romantic...
she fancies him, but he doesn't fancy her.
Well, I mean, they filmed scenes where she gives him tokens for luck. You know, there's lots of scenes filmed that was just cut from the film.
Yeah.
Or scenes in the script that they just decided, you know, we're going to cut this love interest out. And then in the second one, it's completely gone, and she's moved on to Louis Tully. Yeah. And it's only because the animated series, The Real Ghostbusters, came out in between movies.
Yes, yeah.
That they continued to pursue the Egon Janine sort of romance on and off through that series, but then it was also, you know, done away with.
But there's that bit where he climbs out from underneath the table. Now, when I was a kid, I was wondering what he was doing down there. And, she says to him, do you read a lot? And he says, print is dead. But for a kid, I thought he said the printer is dead. And that he was down there trying to fix the printer. And then when I got older and I realized print is dead, it's his his mentality of saying, "No, I don't read." The written word is already established. It's going back and just re-listening to the script over this, the interactions between every single character, Lewis, Dana, Peter, Ray, even when people just happen to come in and pop out. When they head to the first hotel,
we got one.
they head to the first hotel and they're speaking to the hotel manager, and he's like, "Oh yeah, everybody knows about the 13th floor. We just don't discuss it." And it's like, "Oh, so this happens all the time, right? Okay, And then they meet the guy at the elevator, and they're like, "Oh, there's a cockroach up on 13th. Bite your head off, man."
I'll get the next one.
Yeah. Just little joke after joke.
It's them in the elevator, and they're like, "We've got unlicensed nuclear reactors on our backs. We haven't tested them yet. Turn me on."
Oh man! And you as I realized when I was watching this film for like the bazillionth time on HD DVD on my flat screen, if you look really, really carefully, all of the special effects in this movie were, practical effects that they had to apply. So the backpacks are literally what? Cardboard, plastic, painted, spray painted?
No, they are heavy duty backpacks filled with batteries and wires and cables and weighed about 20 pounds. And now Bill Murray, miserable as for most of the filming, that he had to carry that backpack.
Right, okay, well, yeah.
But they did also make a rubber one.
Right.
Which is still painted and it still looks it. But if you see them bump into something or if you see a Ghostbusters on his back.
Yes.
Like when Peter is slimed,
yes.
You can tell that he's laying on a rubber backpack.
But that's just the genius of this movie. They've got to show us this backpack. It's got to have its lights. It's got to fire these, ectoplasm capturing laser beam what the fuck is it? I don't know, but the damage it fucking does. Like when he fires.
That poor maid.
Yeah.
I say poor maid because that poor maid had no idea that the trolley she was wheeling out was packed with explosives. So when she looks out going, "What the hell are you doing?" That was real. That's not in the script. That was just her going, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yes.
What the hell are you doing?
Oh, it's just amazing. When they first see Slimer going down, and now, I don't know why I've never thought about it, but yeah, you can see John Belushi there, and it's, just Belushi just floating there. I did notice it this time where he was drinking in the ballroom.
Yeah, and the wine just pours right through him.
It just made so many little details where somebody's in the film like, look, we need to add this to make it work.
Yeah.
And so after, like we said, Peter's sliming situation, it's one of the most iconic moments in cinema. You put it up there with the, Janet Leigh from fucking Psycho and her screaming, Bill Murray screaming as the Slimer's coming at him.
Ugly onion-headed thing. I mean, the way they did the Slimer was fantastic because they had no idea how they were going to recreate it.
Yeah.
And they ended up just building this big rubber green luminescent potato that they called Onion Head. Like, he wasn't called Slimer until after the film came out.
Yeah.
And it was obviously Peter's line, "He slimed me," which coined his name.
Yeah.
And yeah, the suit that they build him is basically an actor wearing all black, and the top half of him is in the suit,
nice,
wearing black sleeves, and they've got like all of these other actors or all these other makeup people around him, all wearing black, so that they can all push and prod and pull the Slimer rubber suit around, so that he contorts and bounces and wobbles around. That's how his mouth, flaps so much. It's like when you see the behind the scenes, you're just like, that's amazing how they did that and how it looks in the film.
Yeah, it's magic. They chase Slimer into the ballroom. I love the whole ballroom situation.
Yes.
The destruction that they bring on
how
the whole
many
room.
Tablecloths have you removed from tables thanks to Ghostbusters?
At least 4, and everyone I always go, the flowers are still standing. And I love the way that once they finally do capture Slimer, it's just iconic that he's the first one they capture. And they bring him outside and they're talking to the manager again about how much they're going to charge. I love Harold Ramis's fingers as he's moving up, trying to explain how much money they're going to... Like, is there a price? They've got the corner of the market now. They own this market. There no other you could try and get other ghost companies to come up, but nobody has the technology.
Right.
You know, nobody's able to have the containment unit. And that's also another underlying kind of storyline that happens in the film, which is really subtle but fits in really well with the Ghostbusters and their developing business and the Dana Barrett Gozer invasion from a spirit realm, is the Walter Peck, you know, kind of EPA, Environmental Protection Agency kind of storyline.
He's kind of like the real villain of the film.
He is. He's pinnacle at one point.
Because he comes into the Ghostbusters office and he has this is what sets up the rivalry with Venkman straight away.
Yeah.
Is the slimy handshake and the way he wipes his hand on his suit and the way he treats him. It's just like, you know, you gotta use the magic word. What is the magic word?
Well, Venkman kind of knows that what they're kind of doing is illegal because they have unlicensed nuclear power accelerators on their backs, and the containment unit downstairs is connected to another paranormal universe, I believe.
Yeah, we just don't tell the government that. You get into trouble.
You have to, because how are they even paying taxes? They've got to be trying to. I don't know. Adult me really starts to think then. But I do love the addition of Winston Zeddemore, you know, Ernie Hudson's character.
Yeah.
And reading into the notes about this, you know, there were ideas of having Eddie Murphy come in as the fourth.
Well, in the original script, it was the 4 Ghostbusters from the get-go.
Yeah.
And when Eddie Murphy dropped out, the script was rewritten.
Oh.
And then when Ernie Hudson turned up and he was just like, wait a minute, this isn't the same script I was hired for.
Yeah.
What happened? Half of the script of me is gone. And all his dialogue went to the other 3.
Oh.
So he definitely had a rough... I mean, Ernie Hudson has said his first week on set was rough because he felt like he was being ostracized and outcast.
Well, yeah.
Especially it was like, well, Eddie Murphy, you know, denied the role because it wasn't a starring role. So they're like, well, we'll minimize that role entirely then because we don't have a star.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame because Winston Zeddemore is such an everyday blue-collar working man.
He is, yeah.
You know, and like, even his intro where he lists his resume to Janine when he's being hired.
Yeah.
Even that's cut from the film where he was like, I'm a construction worker, I'm a war veteran, I'm this and I'm that. And it's just like, it's cut.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it was really quite difficult because without Eddie Murphy there, you would have still had to have filmed everything else. So the film really kind of weirdly does work with just the 3 actors up to the point where Winston Zeddemore turns up. But for me, yeah, like Gary says, you need this 4th character. And
because he's the one asking all the questions.
Yes, because he's just like everybody else. I love this the way it's just like, yeah, you're hired. Here's a trap. Look, we're just going to explain to you. You put it in, you hit this button, it turns green, you take the trap out of. I'm like, I'm good. I'm Ernie Hudson, guys. You know, I'm the everyday guy who just puts the pack on. And I don't believe Eddie Murphy. I'm glad in a way Eddie Murphy wasn't in the movie because, yeah, it would not have worked against the other 3.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Sigourney Weaver kind of thing again. I mean, I don't know Ernie Hudson's massive film career before Ghostbusters, but he's an actor's actor.
Yeah.
You know, he can act. Bill Murray was more of a stand-up comedian, you know, and would just say jokes. Ernie Hudson has to obviously be serious in his roles. And there is that brilliant moment where him and Ray are driving in the car.
Love that bit.
They have been busy as fuck. You know, there have just been ghosts appearing all over the city that they've had to deal with. You know, they're also still trying to deal with the Dana Barrett situation.
Well, it's the big conversation that they have that's, you know, it's one of the few times where the film addresses religion and science and the battle that's ensuing because, you know, they're into mysticism and occultism, but not necessarily like heaven and hell and God and the devil.
Yeah.
But they're dealing with science to deal with the supernatural of the afterlife. So, and they're using science to do it, not religion. And so there's this whole like other layer that's in the film that they kind of address, like with the apocalypse that's impending.
Yes.
And the implications of it. And it's not like brought to the forefront of the movie, but that one conversation with the 2 of them in the car, I just thought that really helped sort of, again, just bring some kind of semblance of what's going on to layman's terms.
Yeah. Well, you totally need that conversation because later on when you have the other religious aspects brought in, they're really more comedy roles. You know, you have the priest talking to the mayor and they're like, they're golfing buddies. You know, you've got like all different manners of religious people stood outside the Shendor's building, Dana Barrett's building, when the apocalypse is coming. But they're only like a small group because obviously they couldn't afford too many extras. Having this tiny little conversation with Ernie Hudson and Ray Stantz discussing about, shit, we're noticing a pattern here. And that plays along nicely with Peter Venkman talking with Dana Barrett about, how her building was constructed back in the fucking, 5th century. It's got alloys of metal inside it that should never have been created. Sacrifices were committed on the rooftop. Like I said, the movie has played this really nice... Oh, it's all fun and games, but no, look, murder is on the horizon.
Well, it's the fact that this film goes to the next level where it becomes very H.P. Lovecraft. It's these elder gods that exist in other dimensions and other planes of existence that are now trying to get into our world. And as a result of that, all this supernatural stuff is happening.
Yeah.
I was like, that's amazing.
That's amazing. And you have the 2 hellhound dogs on top of the roof of the building.
The terror hounds.
Yeah. And they become alive and active. I mean, the when I was a kid, when I saw Sigourney Weaver get, when she comes into her apartment and she sits down in her chair and the chair erupts, terrified the fuck out of me, because she screams, she goes flying into that door and it just closes. It was Poltergeist all over again. Yeah. I'm like, Jesus, there's something got her. But then you get the comedy moment of Louis Tully's.
He's having a party.
He's having a party.
Again, this is a great moment of filmmaking where the whole party is one shot.
Yeah.
You follow Louis through the entire party, through all the guests, all the way up until he throws the coat into the wardrobe.
Yeah.
Right onto the dog.
I mean, yeah, if you look at the effect of the dog, it's always sat down.
The puppet, I think, is fantastic.
Yes,
in motion, it's looking awful today.
It's 1984. I totally forgive this movie for everything that it does, because it at least was doing the best it could at the time.
I will also say, though, considering how amazing the effects in this film hold up today, that one doesn't hold up at all. It is appalling to look at. It was immediately distracting. Even if you're trying to forgive it, when you're looking at the screen, you can see how much it doesn't fit, because the lighting's wrong. It's got an outline.
Yeah.
The animation is fine. It's just not imposed into the film correctly or efficiently, and that is because they had run out of time.
Yeah.
It's not their fault. They knew it was bad. They even said it was bad at the time, but they were like, we're out of time to do it.
But at the same time, I don't care. I don't even forgive it. I don't even justify it, because this movie's special effects is the best it could be.
I also want to point out that there is a scene in the film where Slimer is flying around the chandelier.
Yeah.
That is a peanut spray painted green. Yes, it is a peanut on a string. That is the level of some of the special effects in this film, and you wouldn't know it because it's got a blur on it.
I love it. I love it. We watched this thing chase Louis into the Central Park, and I love the joke that the rich people aren't going to help him at all.
Yes.
They'll just carry on eating a meal, and he's possessed, and he is now the Keymaster, and Dana is now the Gatekeeper, and the two of them.
He's called the Keymaster.
Yeah.
He gets locked out of his apartment like 3 times in this film.
I know. It's brilliant. And it's the fact as well of how those two get together, because they've been avoiding all their sexual contact. Like, he flirts with Sigourney Weaver, and when she gets with him, it's just brilliant. I love the fact that he gets picked up as well, and the first place the police take him to is the Ghostbusters HQ, and you get that wonderful line where it's like, picking up or dropping off.
It's like you've got this routine now, this familiarity.
We just drop crazy people off to you and you test them. And Egon starts to test him and realizes there's something otherworldly about him. And Peter's gone and seen Dana and definitely seen there's something otherworldly about her. Like, yes. Like, how he managed to just fend her off, I don't know. He's strong-willed.
Well, that's the thing. That's where he proves that, he's not he does have a heart. You
Yeah.
know, he does have a morality, and he's not just going to like date rape her because she's been possessed. But he does have the comedy lines as well, where he's just like, well, I think there's enough people inside you already.
Yeah.
Now, here's another thing, though, that throws some more shade on Peter Venkman.
Yeah.
Is that he calls up Egon, and he's like, yeah, I just dosed her up with like 300 cc's of Thorazine.
Yeah.
That was the known date rape drug of the 80s.
Yeah.
And so he just had that in his pocket while he was going on a date.
Yeah. Dude, you remember my question at the beginning? If he was sleeping with students,
I just like to think that he actually keeps a whole supply of various different drugs on him for various different encounters that he might come across.
Of course you do. Oh no,
Doesn't just carry around date rape drugs in his pocket. It's Peter Venkman, for God's sake.
Oh man, it is just brilliant. But he heads back to the HQ after putting her to sleep, and he comes across William Afton again, Walter Peck's character, who's come along with police, and they are going to shut down the containment unit. And it's such an amazing turning point of the movie. Like, the music has been brilliant up to this point, but I love this kind of moment that, you know, between the whole explosion, the alarm siren going off, the explosion of the roof coming off, ghosts just going everywhere, Dana blowing the top floor off of her apartment. It's now also the like New York's interactions with all the different ghosts. Slimer's eating fucking hot dogs in the street. There's a zombie fucking taxi driver.
There's some phantom flying out of the subway.
Yeah, it's just all these different things. And you know, people had been up to this point not believing if the Ghostbusters were real. They're like, it's crazy that the movie mixes and matches it so well. Like, you have famous celebrities coming in doing interviews with the Ghostbusters, and you know, they could follow the Ghostbusters to their job and watch them capture ghosts, but people still don't believe that the ghosts are real. So then this whole situation with the mayor, you know, and the mayor's there with the police chiefs and the fire chiefs and the school chiefs, and he's just like, look, fucking the walls of the police station are bleeding. There was a fucking ghost talking to me last night for 3 hours. You know, what have you got to say to yourself, Walter Peck? And he tries to foot it off, you know, that it's all just a giant hallucination. But the fucking encroaching Gozer is in the background, and so the Ghostbusters like just giving everything. Like, get your packs, get your van. Get over there and fucking see what you can deal with.
And it's an awesome moment watching the slow drive of the Ecto-1. They've got police escorts. You know, everyone's cheering, Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's our heroes. They're finally arrived. And they all arrive at the front of the building and they're like, we're ready to do this. And then catastrophe strikes. It's like a minor earthquake tears up the front of the building. I mean, it's an awesome set as well. I mean, it is a set. Like, you when you look at it, you're like, that looks like a New York street.
Yeah.
Complete set. Like, so the only way to do it so they could get, you know, the elevation of the ground shifting and the car, like, flipping into the dirt. And, of course, they all emerge triumphant as they go ready to climb the hundreds of stairs.
I love that. They're so cheering. They're so happy. Everyone's like, yeah. And then the music just immediately drops after, and they're all like, what floor are we on? Jesus Christ.
We're on the teens, I think.
And they make their way all the way up to that floor. And Dana and Lewis had already gotten together. They've had sex or they've made out. You're not entirely sure. You don't see it, but there is some kind of sexual activity there. And then they head up onto the roof just as the Ghostbusters have come up to the room, found the secret stairway, and made their way up onto the roof. And they open up the doorway to Gozer's realm. Now, Gozer is the god that they're trying to bring forward, but does he take the form of the Destructor, or is the Destructor a completely different
I think Gozer takes the form of the Destructor.
Gozer
is the Destructor, yeah.
So then his aim now is to wipe out all life on the Earth?
Yeah, enslave them some way. I don't know.
I mean, he's just coming into the world. He is coming into the world, and it's.
Well, we do have like one of Gozer's minions, who's the Keymaster.
Yeah.
Explaining like the several other instances where Gozer has come into other worlds and what happened, and he's talking about one time there was a giant slore. What's a giant slore? I don't know.
Many roasted in the belly of the slore, and that day I tell you.
Exactly. It's like, what?
It's like, what? But that was it. I was thinking this when I was reviewing it. It's like, what was Gozer's big plan? You know, because like he opens up the door and he was just going to step out and just take over everything. But the Ghostbusters confront him, her, it on the stairway. And I have loved this line forever. I use it all the time. You have to. There is just no other place you would ever use it, and it's one of the greatest movie lines ever. She says to him, you know, because they're all trying to work out what they do, and it calls back to the start of the movie where they're like, "Go get her, Ray." And so Ray goes up there and he delivers this really nice professional talk of going back to the nearest parallel universe and, you know, stopping her invasion. And she says to him, "Are you a god?" And he's like, "No." And then she die and sends all four of them flying towards off the rooftop. You know, purple lightning shooting out of her fingers.
The crowd are going, "Ah!"
Yeah, like obviously she could have wiped them out immediately. Maybe it was just a thought, but maybe she needed to power up. Maybe she isn't at her full strength. Maybe she's in her universe and not in ours yet. I don't know. But when Winston turns to her and goes like, when somebody asks you if you're a god, you say yes, and that's it. From then on, I'm like, yes, I'm a god. Anybody asks, I'm a god. Yes, I am.
Ray, when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Well, and then they decide that it's time to show this prehistoric bitch how they do things downtown.
Yes.
And they hose her down with their proton packs, and she vanishes. And like, oh, we've done it. Scared her off.
The actress playing Gozer was... I read in the notes, though, that the contact lenses she had were excruciating.
At the time, yeah. It was like Evil Dead level contact lenses. They're horrible. They're made of glass.
Yeah, just glass that they put in the eyes. But the short scenes that we do get just firmly establish this being.
She carries herself really well. She's definitely a dancer. She's a model of some kind. The way she gracefully moves.
Yes.
And the way that she looks. Yeah, it's an odd choice to go with, but it really works.
Yeah.
And you also remember her.
And then she disappears, and I always wondered for years why they didn't take the form of J. Edgar Hoover.
Whatever we think of, if you think of J. Edgar Hoover will appear and destroy us, okay? So empty your head.
What?
Well, she says, like, choose the form of the destructor. And Venkman totally gets it and says, oh, yeah, if we think of J. Edgar Hoover will come forth and destroy us. So immediately, as soon as he says J. Edgar Hoover, everybody should be thinking of J. Edgar Hoover. And why it doesn't take the form of J. Edgar Hoover and destroy everything. One, obviously, they can't use his...
Well, I mean, I guess he kind of...
likeness.
Maybe he said it, but he's not picturing it. I don't know what the rules are.
It's because I put it down to the fact that Ray was the one who interacted with her.
Yeah.
And because he was the one who interacted with her,
it's his decision.
It's only his decision. So because Peter's talking about J. Edgar Hoover, Ray's not thinking about that. He immediately thinks of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
He probably went to that immediately before he even mentioned J. Edgar. He was just like, oh, what's the most harmless thing? What's the one thing?
It's the greatest fucking... Oh, man.
I mean, it's set up earlier in the film, like on Dana's kitchen, where she's got the Stay Puft Marshmallows on the side. And, like, we see the glimpse of it. I mean, this thing is revealed to us like RoboCop is, you know? Like, we just see a glimpse of it as it's passing by.
Mother pus bucket.
Right. And then when you see him in his grandeur, he's just a giant marshmallow man sailor. And he's so happy. Look at that face.
Oh,
he's so happy to be here.
My mind was blown as a kid when I saw that. This is up there with King Kong. Right. You know, black and white King Kong. This is up there with, like you said, seeing RoboCop, the Terminator. It's some of... You know, you can kind of... Like, this is why you forgive that dog special effect that we saw come out of the hotel. Because they had to put more of their attention onto this.
Yeah.
And this isn't completely perfect. Like me and Gary were talking about this before we turned the camera on. You know, when the guys are stood up on the top roof, you know, that's matte paintings.
Well, it's a miniature. It's actually a miniature.
Yeah, but you know, when they're looking at Gozer, you know, and you're looking at the stuff in the background, that's all matte paintings. You know, the city's not really there. But your mind is just gone. Believability has gone completely out the window, and so...
Well, it's one of the things I've always said, like, it's like a domino effect in film where... you're going to have a series of events that occur that are so out there that your skepticism will be like, that's feasible.
Yeah.
But if you have enough steps leading to the impossible
Yeah.
that are possible, you'll believe the impossible by the end because you've been taken on that journey.
Yeah.
So by the time all of this outlandish stuff is happening, you've been on this ride from them, running away from a ghost in the library.
Yeah,
here.
And this film has written the line so well because it's dropped a couple of jokes, brought it back to here. It's made it really serious. It's brought it right back down. The four guys are stood up on the roof looking down at the Marshmallow Man. What's the rest of the city doing? They're panicking like, fuck, what are the army thinking? The president's shitting himself at this point. Like, what the hell's happening in New York, And they shoot him with their proton blasters. They just set him on fire, which now just makes gooey marshmallow all over the place. You as a kid, you always that's what you want to be doing. So you bought the toys so you could play with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. You bought the games so you could fight this Marshmallow Man. 20 years later, they finally brought out the game so that we could stand on the side of the building and blast the Marshmallow Man in the face with our proton packs. It's like Jaws. It's one of the greatest movie moments ever. The special effect, I don't care. When you put it in 4K, Blu-ray, HD, big screen stuff, then I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh look, I can see the lines and all that. I don't care.
The actor in the Marshmallow Man suit did an amazing job. The miniature work was fantastic. The lighting, the facial animations. There's some continuity with his.
I don't care.
Exactly. The thing is like those errors are in there, but you've got to be really looking for them because you're so blown away by the spectacle of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And the heightened, finale of the film, like how they're going to stop this, and then they call back to an event earlier in the film.
Yes.
And the only way to stop them is to cross the streams, which would be really bad. But they decide, like, the only way to do this is, like, we need to reverse the positive ion charge with a negative charge so that we can send Gozer back the way that he's come from.
Yeah, well...
And they're like, well, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but at this point in time, there's nothing else.
Yeah, I love these little lines at the end where... it's like, see you on the other side, Dr. Stans, and they're just...
Nice working with you.
Yeah, they get their streams to cross, and then Ernie Hudson and Egon come in, and then you get the blast coming back from the door, and it hits the face of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And, this little comedy moment at the end where everybody down on the bottom is getting covered in marshmallow is brilliant. But I read in the notes that it was like, what was it? It was... shaving foam,
menthol shaving cream,
and so people were getting like skin infections for like weeks after.
Yeah, so people had bad reactions to it. I just think it's amazing that Bill Murray steps out and he's got nothing on him, really.
I love that bit.
But they knew it when they were making it. That was another joke. It was meant to be funny.
Because I love this bit at the end where it's like, "You okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Are you okay? You okay? Are you okay? Yeah." And Reitman just walks off like he's really annoyed. And look at everybody else.
But now there was a couple of moments, like again with Venkman and Dana's relationship, when he kind of like has that heartbreak moment when she does transform into a dog.
Yes.
And he's just like, well, I guess she's a dog. It's almost like he's trying to block the pain away of that. He's never. She's not coming back from that. And he does seem genuinely sad at the end when he's defeated everything.
Yeah.
She's dead. She's gone. And it's the hero's moment where no one's really gone. They're still alive in there, and they break them free.
But is it also as well playfully nice where? Like, we as the audience kind of hope that they'll get together and fall in love. But at the same time, if we're being realistic, he's just saved the girl. That's the most he's done. Yeah, he's sad that she might be dead because he just wanted to save her. It's not that he was madly in love with her as well. But when she starts to escape, and Tully is there, hey, somebody turn on the lights. It's such an easy ending to just flow through. Where they're just...
The song's playing and we get to watch them wrap up.
Yes.
Coming down the stairs, watching them take off the packs, loading up the Ecto-1, shaking hands to the people outside.
Yeah.
And then getting ready to go home, I guess.
Yeah, and if you stay with the credits, like I always try to stay with the credits because the car drives off. and then Slimer comes flying down, and it just takes over the screen, and then the music kicks in again.
Yeah.
Like, young me always just would have loved to have seen this in the cinema.
Yeah.
It would have been absolutely just breathtaking. And that ending, it's like a theater show. You know, you're like, whoa, yeah, let's go again.
Yes.
I want to go again.
Yes. Well, Iain, what were your favourite scenes from the film?
None of it. I don't like Ghostbusters. Part of me just all of it. Like every single, just like Venkman. He's always been just absolutely brilliant with some of his one-liners. I absolutely love Ray's. Listen, do you smell that in the basement of the library? I'm trying not to say something because I know you've got some. Dana Barrett, Tully, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, Gozer. The Slimer bit, Winston Zeddemore. Just go.
It's really hard. I don't. There are so many. The whole film's a favourite scene. Yeah. I don't have one standout scene. I love the whole film equally. I'm always excited rewatching the film for the whole thing. That is the beauty of this film. So I guess I will say I have a favourite character.
Yeah.
And it's Egon Spengler. It's Harold Ramis, you know, and when the news came out that Harold Ramis had passed away, I was devastated. I had to take the day off. It's like, I can't function today. That guy was the first on-screen performer character that made me go, you know, that smart person who is cool, you know, and Egon for me made nerds and geeks cool before I'd seen it in any other films, because they were the ones that were victims, or the ones being bullied, or the ones being ridiculed, and so, you know, that was the character I championed and got behind, and then loved the friendships that he had with those characters, and it opened the doorway to, you know, exploring or having an interest in science and in mysticism and occultism and all of that good stuff. It all comes down to Harold Ramis's portrayal of that character. And I could easily see that Egon character, like, it at the Miskatonic University. And I love how integral the Egon character is to the franchise in the animated series, especially so as well. If it's not favourite scenes in this film, it's favourite lines of dialogue, and there are so many. Almost every character has a really good zinger or a real good comedy line. It might not be laugh out loud, but you know, you remember it. Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Awesome line there by Bill Murray. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass. Again, Bill Murray got another good line there. Love that. Yes, it's true. This man has no dick. Wait a minute, that's Bill Murray yet again. It's 3 for 3. All right, a Harold Ramis one for my favourite. Final favourite. I'm terrified beyond the capacity for rational thought. His ability to deliver deadpan dialogue in such a way. Egon.
Tell him about the Twinkie.
What about the Twinkie?
Well, Iain, do you recommend Ghostbusters?
I couldn't find an easier movie to recommend other than Ghostbusters. It's quite possibly on the list of one of the greatest movies ever made. And when you look into the background of the movie, there's so many things that could have just made it go completely off course. You know, the movie, by all rights, should not be as successful as it is. But that's movie magic right there. That somebody took an idea, developed it even more, added a few more things, started working on something else, decided to push it even further in one direction, push it even further with something else, and somebody just immediately sees that idea and goes, look, we can make a franchise off of this. You know, t-shirts, toys, cartoon series, comic books, fucking computer games. This movie is what? Fucking
nearly 40 years old.
Almost 40 years old. And I said it to Gary before we started filming. It is going to be going down, you know, in the analogues of history for people to study in the future. Yeah, people were going to say, oh, it's not that great. And people will say, well, it's the greatest movie ever made. You had to be there to watch it. And once you've watched it, if you've never watched it, once you've watched it, if you're still an unbeliever, I don't know who you're going to call.
Well, yeah, well. I mean, this is an absolute classic. It's one of the greatest films ever made, and one of the most influential and favourite films of all time for me. This film has also remained popular for nearly 40 years, with sequels, animation shows, toys, a remake, and more. Ghostbusters is one of those films that cemented itself in pop culture and has remained in the best of lists of films for all time. It's lightning in a bottle, an incredible amount of skill and talent involved to create a timeless classic. The direction, tone, pacing, and performances and music are all fantastic. It's a technical marvel with outstanding effects and movie magic that's grounded by terrific actors, grounding the reality of the situation while still being entertaining and hilarious. The only noticeable flaw watching today are maybe some of the rushed effects, like the terror dogs, but it doesn't detract from the experience whatsoever for me. This film is just perfect. It's so damn imaginative, insanely creative, and endlessly rewatchable. As a film fan, I also implore you to check out Cleaning Up the Town, Remembering Ghostbusters, for a huge insight into the making of this masterpiece. Yep, this is a must-watch, a classic, a timeless film that always entertains. It's top quality. The supernatural spectacular. Let's get slimed one more time. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Did you see it? What is it?
We got it.